This week on Head to Head, an R-rated Star Wars movie, we find out which apprentice was the most misguided, and the High Republic creators meet. And it's all happening right now.
You're listening to Head, a Star Wars podcast. Two fans, two generations, all things Star Wars begins now.
Hello, everybody. I'm Eric Mansell.
And I'm Daryl Sanders.
And we're your hosts for this podcast. So you know what? When was it? 2 weeks ago, something like that, I think. You had mentioned that Star Wars comic series.
Yeah, the one with Leia, Lando, and
Destiny something.
Yeah.
Once again, I don't remember what it's called. But I did subscribe to it.
Okay.
And I actually read the first 3 issues, and it's amazing.
Yeah.
It really is cool. I mean, besides that, of course, we had the Rise of Kylo Ren, which, you know, we talked about a lot last week.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, the Darth Vader. They actually have a whole new Darth Vader comic series for 2020.
Yeah, Marvel and they've been pumping out like all these great Star Wars comics lately, man. And it's really this whole series, actually.
Well, the thing that's really weird, though, is that now the new issue, I think, was just released. I haven't gotten it yet, which is really a little strange because usually when you subscribe, you get it right away. But, you know, who knows? Sometimes they do delay the releases every once in a while.
Probably that coronavirus.
Yeah,
thing,
exactly. But here's the thing that's funny is that they actually brought up Padme at the last one. Like, he faced her or whatever. And it's like, we're kind of wondering, well, how she's still alive or what's going on with this?
I think it's some hallucination, but I mean,
I'm really wondering what's up with that because it's like,
weird.
Okay, first Palpatine and now you're bringing back Padme. That would never ever work in this current.
Yeah, I think it's either hallucination, like some like force projection type thing that makes them think that's what
it's got to be.
You know, because I don't think, because that wouldn't make sense.
No, that would not make sense at all.
But I think that's one of those things that he knows will like just anger him. You know what I mean? It's just like.
But I have to say, though, that it is a great series so far. The Rise of Kylo Ren, as you know, absolutely phenomenal. And this new Star Wars one where they go back to Cloud City and it follows Lando, Luke, Leia in between Empire and Return of the Jedi is really cool.
Yeah.
And the fact that they froze Leia in carbonite,
I was about to say,
that was so wild.
Yeah. Creepy. It's creepy just this like thing like, wait, how? Like, okay.
I can't wait to see how she gets out of this.
Yeah, it's going to be sweet.
So, I mean, but one of the things that is kind of cool that I was thinking about, and again, this might be fan overthinking, but you remember in Return of the Jedi when Han Solo was all confused and she was like, oh, it's just hibernation sickness and all that?
Well, now it gives
maybe
context.
That's how she knows.
Well, yeah, because the whole reason why she went there is to figure out how to get him out of it.
Right.
I mean, that's the whole reason why she went back to college.
Right, but
she
you
wanted to study.
assume that when she did that whole thing or when she said that maybe somebody told her or she just knew kind of like this is
when
the
we
effects.
watched the movies, but now with this comic.
With this comic, maybe she's saying that because, oh, yeah, I've been through this before.
Been there, done that, bought the T-shirt. But
yeah, exactly. Well, you know what? You know where I'd like ice? I'd like ice in my drink.
Nice.
So you got to like that one. What do you say we go to the Cantina?
Yes, sir.
All right, let's go. Here we are.
All right, so.
What do we got?
Clone Wars off the bat. All right, so we've watched the last episodes of Clone Wars, and we saw episode 3 and episode 4. So when we see episode 3, we see them finally disconnect Echo from the whole mainframe that they have over at the Separatist hub, pretty much. And so, of course, coming back, you know, the Echo kind of uttered this creepy line, this eerie line where Rex basically said, yeah, man, it would just be like old times. And he's like, yeah, like old times. And the premise behind that was because, you know, Rex and them had to leave Echo behind on that one mission when they were at the Citadel. And so that's where Rex is kind of, you kind of wonder if Echo's still harboring those bad feelings towards Rex. And
so you're thinking they're setting him up to be maybe some sort of a villain or something?
Yeah, or maybe like maybe not intentionally, but maybe like the Separatists might have installed something into him.
Well, and they had even said in episode 4 that they might have, you know, I wish they had released. So at the time that we're recording, episode 5 is out. We just haven't had a chance to see it yet. But yeah, it really does make you wonder where they're going with that because, okay, Echo has joined Bad Batch now. We know that. But is there some remnants of the separatist programming that are still with him,
right,
that could come back, maybe unintentionally, or maybe, like you said, he's a little bit, I guess, upset about the way that things went down, and he might actually harbor a grudge or something. Well,
yeah, even at the end of episode 4, the Bad Batch was pretty much trying to convince Echo, like, well, you don't really belong here anymore. Mm-hmm. You should come be with us. And then, of course, Rex, being who he is, was just like, well, you're my friend, and, that's where you build. If you feel like you belong, I'll support it. And it was really a touching thing to see all of them salute Rex and everything, like we said last episode.
Oh, yeah. And it's still, when I think about it.
But you kind of wonder, especially like he's kind of like a Borg almost in a way. That's kind of what Echo kind of reminds.
That is the vibe that you get.
Yeah, because he's got that screwdriver arm thing now. He's got all those implants that's over his head, and
kind of like a little Lobot-ish thing going.
Yeah, because he can plug in, and now like his brain almost reacts like a computer that's buffering and processing information. That's what actually makes
him an interesting character now to me, is that he's almost like this hybrid character now. He's like a clone, but he's
like
sort of
Data
droidish, as well.
Exactly.
So I think they can go a lot of different places with his story arc, and they still have, like I said, episode 5 was just released, but they've got 7 more episodes to go.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm just really wondering if they kind of set him up like later on down the line to be like another villain. Like maybe Rex might eventually have to kill Echo just because he presents too much of a problem later on down the line.
What would really make that tragic is if it wasn't Echo's fault, right? That he wasn't trying to be a villain, but with this renegade programming that's in him, he's doing villainous things, but he doesn't mean to. So now it's like, I got to kill my friend, but he doesn't mean to be bad, kind of a thing. And that would be tragic, and that would add a lot of emotional weight to the series, I think.
Yeah, and that's one thing you can say about this series is that, whenever we watch like Attack of the Clones or something like that, or even watching the Clone Wars really humanizes the clones. It really gives you like, man, like these are like real people with real emotions. They're not just like mindless zombies running around.
Drones or something.
Just, they're real people with real emotions, and they have their own attachments. They love, they care, outside of that.
Thing. It's like when you watch Attack of the Clones, you get this vibe that a lot of their individuality has been wiped out. Mm-hmm. But then over time, you see that there is, even though they'll obey their programming and everything like that, there's still individual personalities between these guys. And like you said, they have their own attachments, their own likes, dislikes. Mm-hmm. And that's really, I think, coming out in this season.
Yeah, it's been really cool. We've even seen, like I said, when Rex, remember he like left, he was hiding out on that one planet, and he started like a whole nother family.
Oh yeah,
life.
He started a whole life. Kind of reminded me of like Carl from the Terminator.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just like, wow. So I mean, I think this was this series is really kind of taking a different spin and a different turn.
Absolutely.
And speaking of which, so last week, I mentioned that
the Anakin question.
The Anakin
the
question.
one that the little cliffhanger you left off with last week. Yes. Well, good. You're getting out early in the episode. This is good. This is a good thing.
So, there's a scene where Anakin, at the end of episode 4, there's a situation where there's a bomb at the shipyard or a Nexus building that they're in, and he's trying to get the codes to Mace Windu. He's got most of them, but then right at the end, there presents a problem. Echo gets disconnected from the mainframe, and he can no longer get the codes to Mace Windu. So Anakin finds General Tretch, who's like this giant spider, basically.
Yeah, he's kind of creepy.
He's creepy. I hate when they show him.
I mean, what's funny, though, is like when he talks, he's cool because he sounds like an English butler or something.
Yeah, exactly. But Mr. Belvedere.
Yeah, like, but to think that that's coming out of this weird, like when you just look at this creature, I mean, I'm thinking if I saw this guy walk into a room, I'd
shoot
probably exactly
on sight. There's no question. But this was an interesting episode because, this season 7 is bumping up right up against Revenge of the Sith. And so we're starting to see in this particular episode the slow descent of Anakin into the dark side a little bit. We see it when he actually confronts General Trench, and General Trench tries to almost pull Anakin's card a little bit, like, well, you're not going to do anything to me because you're a Jedi.
Yeah, it almost kind of reminds me in a lot of the the movies where it's like, well, you're a cop, you're not going to shoot me, you have to take me in, that kind of thing.
Exactly. And you think you're really going to get me to talk, that type of situation. Well, to Anakin, given the direness of the situation, he's just like, none of that weakness resides in me. And then he lops off like 3 of his arms or whatever. And then on top of this, so he eventually gives up the code. Trench gives up the code, and Mace Windu is able to complete the sequence and deactivate the bomb. And then Trench tries to attack Anakin with this little electro staff or whatnot.
Yeah, kind of like a little taser.
Yeah, exactly. Tried to tase Anakin, and Anakin just impales him like right into this whole thing. And then Anakin is like, in typical Anakin fashion, just kind of sarcastic with it, like, "Oh man, it was a pleasure, man, doing business with you," or something like that. So my question is, do you think that Jedi should be able to use the dark side in certain situations? Because on one hand, like, you would look at it from the standpoint of like, well, the light side is all about preserving life and harmony and all that, sunshines and rainbows. Whereas the dark side is kind of it's definitely more aggressive. It doesn't necessarily have to mean evil per se, unless you just lose control into that. But I think that, we've often talked about balancing the Force. And I think sometimes the Jedi are too, and they've often mentioned this in the movies, they're too dogmatic in their ideals or their ideologies. So they go like left one way, and then the Sith are like all the way right. But if you actually have it to where you can use certain things in the right spirit of things. So in this situation, there's a lot of lives at risk, and you're trying to win this war for the betterment of people. You might have to get your hands dirty a little bit. And I think that's what Anakin did for the betterment of the Republic. So is he justified in using the dark side, or should he be justified in using the dark side? Or is it still should be,
well,
stick to the code?
Here's the thing, though. I think that you could actually have a debate, not necessarily in this situation, because it is Anakin we're talking about, but that may or may not be a use of the dark side. You could, in Anakin's situation, I would say that it is only because of the aggression and almost somewhat, but then again, I don't know. It didn't seem like he was really hateful, because you got to remember the dark side, it's hatred. It's really more about intent. It's not even so much the action. It's like, the intent, the hatred, the anger, the fear. These are the things that are behind the dark side. Because if you think about it, a lot of times people would be, well, it's like, look, the Jedi kill people all the time. True. But their intent is not, they're not killing you because they want to. They're killing you because they have to. But, for the greater good.
But like you said, the intent. So when you talk about fear, okay, in that situation, it's about the fear of losing this particular situation. Well,
and I mean, I get it. It's almost like, okay, he's like desperate and he's freaking out or whatever. But I don't know. He didn't seem like he was all that.
Well, I think because,
But let's look at Mace Windu. Now, Mace Windu is known to use the dark side.
That's what I was just about to go. Yep.
So I don't necessarily know if it's an action-based thing or if it's more of an intent-based thing. And
you would think it makes you wonder, though, like, okay, if Mace Windu is known for using the dark side.
Yeah, right. Why isn't anybody concerned about that, given he's like the number 2 guy?
Exactly.
Well, that's a good question.
And like the fact that he's a master, I mean, like, granted, they might say, well, okay, he's mastered it to the point where we're not really concerned about it. But
either that or it's kind of like, okay, it's a Mace thing. Just let it,
Yeah, exactly. Don't upset him.
Right, exactly. It's one of those, but you never know. That's a good point. It's one of those things where as he mastered it to the point to where
he doesn't lose. And
it's so controlled that,
and I think that's really the thing in both situations. I think with light and dark, I think it's all about controlling, because I think you don't need to go too far light and too far dark, because I think it blinds you either way. Because I think you're blind if you're like, you ever see those people who are just constantly happy and nothing, like they can never see like the evil in things because they're always looking for the good. It's like, well, yeah, that's a good trait to have, but you do need to realize that there are some evils here.
Right, where it's almost like they're blind to any of the evil that's happening. They're always trying to put a good spin on it, kind of a thing.
Exactly. But then you have those pessimistic people who are just like,
right,
the complete opposite. And
yeah, just like, where all they see is the bad in everything.
Yeah, and you need to find like the healthy medium between the two.
Well, and while I would agree, I don't think that in the true Jedi code that's necessarily a... Like, I don't think they're always too far. Now, it's true that they did get to the point, and you could argue this was Sidious basically blinding them because he was clouding the light side of the Force.
True.
But they were just getting... I think the biggest problem with the Jedi wasn't so much blindness, it was overconfidence. They were so confident in their own abilities to do whatever. It didn't even...
occur to them.
Yeah, occur to them, or they couldn't even fathom the fact that they could possibly be blinded by something because they're so in tune with the Force. They're like, well, that'd be impossible. If that was happening, we would know.
Mm-hmm. Well,
the other thing that I'm wondering about this whole end of the Clone Wars, though, now that you bring this up, are they going to do similar to... Wow. Stupid memory.
Rogue One?
No, bump it up to Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah, like Rogue One does to Episode 4.
Episode 4, or this is what I couldn't remember. Did Rebels bump up to Rogue One?
No.
It was like right before Rogue One, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like like a week or something, or something stupid. Yeah. Okay. That's what I thought.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, if they do something similar to like how Rogue One run up to Episode 4, is the Clone Wars now going to end with that battle that we see opening at Revenge of the Sith? That would be kind of cool.
That would be. Yeah.
But I mean, what do you guys think? So we brought up a lot of stuff here. I mean, first of all, do you think Echo could possibly be the new villain? Or will he be a villain in the Clone Wars moving forward? Or will that become a story arc? So that's number one. Number two, do you think that maybe the Jedi should use the dark side occasionally? That depending on the situation, much like what Anakin did in Episode 4 of the Clone Wars, do you think that that's maybe okay, or do you think that there definitely has to be a clear line? Let us know in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. All right, what's next?
All right, so the rumor mill is going on, and I've heard a shocking revelation, if you will, that Darth Revan, this guy, could be possibly making his way into canon.
Actually, I think he already has been, to be honest.
Okay.
Because Revan is seen as a statue in the Rise of Skywalker on Exegol, which would make him canon. But being that you didn't realize that, it now makes me wonder, what did you hear?
Well, I've been hearing that they're actually going to have like Revan appear in some sort of medium, whether it's on a TV show or another movie, maybe even in this whole High Republic thing.
Well, the High Republic, see, this is where things are going to get a little crazy to me. Because Revan is very much an Old Republic character.
True.
Now, I get the fact that you could do whatever you want with him. And Disney could do that. Disney can just say, you know what? We're going to take him out of the Old Republic and we're going to make him a High Republic character. And that would make sense in a way because he is a fan-loved character.
Mm-hmm.
And
he's on both sides of the coin, too.
Yeah, exactly. Because he started out good and then he became evil.
Yeah, evil.
So, I mean, he's definitely a complex character as well.
True.
So what you could do is you could put him in the High Republic, which would give you your main villain for the High Republic. It would give you your Vader of the High Republic.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, because he's so rooted in the lore of the Old Republic, and Disney has expressed interest in doing Old Republic movies, I don't know. It makes more sense to me for them to do it that way.
Well, I think that, and I might have misspoke, I think they're actually talking about Old Republic, not High Republic.
Yeah, because
I'm still getting used to saying High Republic because I've never.
Well, again, I mean, even though it happened to be a mistake on your part, it could you could do that because look at what they did with Thrawn. They took Thrawn out of the post-Return of the Jedi world from Legends and put him in
Rebels.
In Rebels, which is before the original trilogy.
True, but see,
so they could do something like that.
But with his species being to live as long as they have, you could easily, I guess you can say that.
Yeah, you could do that because he could still be around after that. We don't actually know what happened to Thrawn.
Exactly.
And in fact, I hear they're coming out with a new Thrawn series or something, not like a series of books. So we'll have to see where that goes. But yeah, I would say that if they're going to do an Old Republic thing, that you would almost have to put Revan in there to give people what they want.
True. Yeah, it's true. I mean, even in this whole, in the High Republic, which we'll talk about a little bit later, but I think that, you kind of have to create like, okay, well, what's going to be, because of the Sith being gone for a millennia, all right, well, that means there can't be any Sith Lords running around. So who's going to be the challenge for the Jedi, really? And I think you're going to start seeing like dark side users more or less than.
Well, yeah, you would almost have to. But the thing is that Revan is so.
But he's like a definite Sith, though.
Yeah, he is.
So he's like. But I mean, I would really love to see him. I would love to see him in, because I think he could actually possibly be as popular as Vader. Like now that we can't show Vader anymore because it's like, okay, he had his time. Like we saw him become Vader as Anakin Skywalker in Revenge of the Sith, and then we saw him in Return of the Jedi. So unless you're going to cover some space in between that, I think
they are.
Episode,
I think that they've been mentioning a Vader series on Disney Plus. Rumors constantly are popping up with that. Yeah, they could do that.
I mean, they could as long. Well, I mean, I guess depending on if you're doing it as a live action or you're talking animation. Because if you do live action, well, then now you better get James Earl Jones out there.
Well, and they have, and I mean, who knows? Again, for me, I'd have them say like every letter of the alphabet, like every word,
the dictionary. Yeah,
exactly.
Something.
Just go to town, and so you could put it together. But we'll have to see what comes of that. But I would just think that I could see them doing an Old Republic movie featuring Revan, and maybe that's why they put him as a statue in the Rise of Skywalker, to kind of get him in there, get him people talking about it, which people have. Okay. And, we'll have to see.
Yep. All
right. But what about you guys? Are you guys interested to see Darth Revan at all pop up? I know you are, because we all are. We all love Knights of the Old Republic. But where do you think that he would best fit? Do you think they should transplant him and put him in the High Republic era? Or do you think that it should be an Old Republic thing and to keep him in the Old Republic and that's what we're going to see? And how many times can I say Old Republic? Let us know in the comment section below. All right, what do we got next?
All right, man. So next, this is something that you actually brought to my attention, and it's something that you've been talking about actually before this even before it even broke. So you've been mentioning something about we've seen Westerns in Star Wars with The Mandalorian. So you thought about like, well, what's another genre? And you said a horror movie. And so I'm like, a horror movie, really? I was like, how would they do that? And it seemed like this might be somebody else is thinking along the lines of you.
Yeah. So what basically happened with this, and I don't know, I ran across some title, I think it was on Twitter or something, where it was talking about Doctor Strange director, just Scott Derrickson, wants to do R-rated Star Wars horror movie set on Hoth. Mm-hmm. I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. So what he wants to do is he almost wants to make a movie that's kind of like The Thing, but set in the Star Wars universe on Hoth.
Okay.
And again, this is the kind of thing where I was just standing up and cheering. First of all, yeah, I think that might be a really cool, different kind of horror movie.
Yeah, definitely.
Because it's set in a different universe.
True.
But it's familiar to us.
Yeah, I mean, like, if you got, like...
But you could go into Hoth, though, because there's a lot of things that we're not familiar with, because they only spent, like a really short amount of time at the beginning of Empire. Mm-hmm. But Hoth could be a creepy place.
Well, yeah, I mean, you got to think about, like, it's completely dark, especially at night, and you're just on the snowball, pretty much.
Yeah, they could almost do, like, a combination of The Thing and Pitch Black.
Yeah.
And that would actually, but set on Hoth, and that would be
or
a
30
creepy
Days
thing.
of Nights or something like that.
Exactly. You know, they could do something like this. But this goes back to an even broader point that I had mentioned, as you brought up, that they could do genre movies based was in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah.
Why not have a Star Wars romantic comedy? Why not have a Star Wars horror movie? Why not have a Star Wars slasher movie?
Or a political drama.
Or political thriller.
Yeah.
Or anything that you see in the movies of any of the genres today, you could just simply have it take place in the Star Wars universe. You don't even have to use any of the characters that we all know or whatever. You just set it in the Star Wars universe.
Well, I mean, I would, if this were to come out, I would definitely have to go see it just out of pure curiosity.
Oh, yeah.
You know, just to see like, okay, what would this look like? And then watch. I'll probably become addicted to it. Like, man, I can't wait, you know, especially if it's done right.
Exactly. But what I think makes this so exciting to me is that it's obvious that other filmmakers are starting to think the same thing.
Yeah, I think
like, hey, why not have a genre movie? Like you said, the Western, right? Yep. Look at how well that's working out.
Yeah, I think it's starting to catch on to a lot of people. And I think if you have a franchise like Star Wars or something where you can expand to that degree, then yeah, I think a lot of people are going to start once again following the Star Wars model and saying like, okay, we have this franchise that can actually go in a bunch of different directions. So let's try it.
And with Star Wars, you could do that a lot easier than, say, the Marvel or DC universes, because those depend on having some superhero in them.
Yeah, and on top of that, it's kind of like there's already source material that's already kind of created based upon them.
No, that's true, too.
So it's like, you know, you can't have like a Western with Black Panther. I mean, it'll just be weird. It's like...
Well, I mean, they did have... But to play devil's advocate for a second, they did do genre-themed things in the comics.
Yeah, I mean,
I know there was some Western. I can't remember if it was Marvel or DC, but somebody did like a Western, and
I mean, I can see
a little hokey maybe, but you know.
Yeah, I mean, if you did like some weird time travel thing or something like that, and they got stuck in a different dimension or something. But I mean, I'm just saying like just a genre type thing.
Yeah,
I don't think you could do that.
It would be difficult, especially because it would be dependent. See, something like that, it would be dependent on having the actual characters in.
Right.
Because it's already set in, like New York. So it'd be like, okay, so a genre movie would just be set in New York. I mean, what makes it, unless you bring one of the heroes in, what makes it different? Mm-hmm. But Star Wars, it's a whole nother universe.
True.
And so you can have it, and you can set it on different planets. You can do so many different things. In fact, you could take one genre and have completely different movies just depending on what planet it takes place on. Mm-hmm. So really, and again...
And there's constant characters that are being created all the time.
Exactly. Now, at first, I was going to, at the time that we were talking about this, I was thinking that it would be a long time before we would see this, because Lucasfilm and Disney are still in that, okay, we got to focus on some of the characters and expand their storylines. We have to create new ones. They're still trying to make the typical Star Wars film. Mm-hmm. But when you get an article like this, where you have a very prominent director coming out going, you know what, I want to make a horror film in the Star Wars universe, you're kind of like, well, okay, there's people that are thinking along these lines now.
Yep.
So maybe they could do it. The other option... You can make the movies, but who says that you just can't have a movie made for Disney Plus?
True.
It doesn't necessarily have to be a theatrically released movie. But what about you guys? Do you guys think that maybe it's a little too soon to start thinking about genre-based movies in the Star Wars universe? Or do you think that this would be a really interesting path for them to pursue? Let us know in the comments below. All right.
All right. Well... So after we put down these drinks.
Oh, yeah. It's time to leave the cantina.
It's time to leave the cantina, and let's get a little duel on since we're talking about Westerns. So.
Oh, yes.
We're going to go to Duel of the Fates. All right. So this week we have which apprentice was more misguided?
More misguided.
Misguided. Good old Darth Vader or Kylo Ren?
Well, if you're talking about, once again, I got to complicate this. If you're talking about who is more misguided externally, definitely Vader. If you're talking about more internally, definitely Kylo.
What do you mean by external?
Well, external meaning Vader was manipulated by external forces. It wasn't so much that he was feeling, I mean, he was emotional and all that, but I mean, if left to his own devices, Anakin would have just continued being a Jedi. It was Palpatine's constant manipulation that made him look at otherwise benign events in a malicious way. The Jedi are doing this to you. Obi-Wan fears your power. That's why he's holding you back. Anakin wasn't having these thoughts on his own. This stuff was being put into him. Now, granted, Palpatine was taking advantage of certain situations and putting a spin on it. But there was a definite external manipulation happening. And granted, yes, you can make the argument that Anakin, just by nature, was more susceptible to that type of a thing. But there was definitely external manipulation. Kylo, on the other hand, all that came internally. If you read The Rise of Kylo Ren, he's always feeling like, well, why is, Luke's always trying to tell everybody that we're all equal, but I'm obviously better than everybody. Then he's, it's just like everything that he feels, it's all coming from inside of his feelings. And of course, there's people out there like Snoke and stuff that's taking advantage of it. But most of his manipulation and most of just the way he's feeling is coming internally.
I think, I'm going to have to disagree with you. I think they're both internal, because if you look at both their paths, they both have great power. They both have tremendous ability, but I think they both struggle with internally. They both struggle with being patient, one, and two, I think they both have fear. If you look at Anakin, from day one, even when Yoda was like, much fear I sense in you. And, I think, and even that's why he didn't want him to be trained in the first place, was because, one, he was a little older than what he should have been to start the training in the first place. But I think, and so then he is almost like Anakin always had things constantly taken from him. So, you looking at the standpoint of, okay, his freedom was taken from him. His mother eventually was taken from him. And then now, like, okay, he has this power and ability that's kind of not taken from him, but he's been held on this leash. And
you can say Padme was taken from him. And then
eventually Padme
Kinda.
Padme was taken from him. And so, like, he constantly has this fear, because his whole motive was like, okay, I want to become powerful enough to keep the ones I love from dying. Mm-hmm. I want to become powerful enough to, do this. And so he's always had those internal struggles, to which Palpatine could sense. And of course, because of those fears, he manipulated, Anakin, and of course, eventually turning him into Vader. Because it's not like, yes, Obi-Wan was holding him back. He was, but it was for a reason. He just wasn't giving him the full story of it.
Well, I mean, I will be the first to say, too, that Obi-Wan probably wasn't the best master for him. Because, and that's going into my point, is the fact that if you think about it, first of all, if there was no Palpatine, I think Anakin would still be a Jedi. Because if you think about it, even right at the end, here's Palpatine, was almost like a father to him. As soon as he found out that Palpatine was a Sith Lord, it's like, you're evil. I'm gonna take you in. You're gonna be arrested. Mm-hmm. Anakin was still determined to do the right thing. It wasn't until Palpatine once again took advantage of a lot of situations, and then kept dangling this, hey, if you're on my side, become Darth Vader.
I have this power.
Exactly. It's all external manipulation.
But I think the same thing goes with Kylo with Snoke, because if you look at his situation, once again, Kylo has great power. He has great talent. And, even Rey called him out. You're afraid that you're not going to be as strong as Darth Vader. Like, So he's just afraid of not living up to his potential and his power and that's even what Snoke was always kind of like, once again, manipulating. Oh, you're just, take that silly thing off, or you're just a child in a mask. And he's constantly trying to provoke Kylo that, like, you're not who you can be. You're not who you're supposed to be. I thought you were going to be better than this, but you're not. It's a different type of manipulation.
That's my point. My point is, it's an internal manipulation. All they're doing is they're taking the things that are already inside of Kylo and just trying to ignite it to their own end.
But it's the same thing. But Anakin had the same thing. He had the same type of. That's what I'm saying. It wasn't external. I think it was always there. He always had that fear.
Yeah, but I think that if there was no Palpatine, Anakin would have stayed a Jedi.
Well, if there was no Snoke, that probably would have happened too.
No, because there's a little bit of that, but if you think about it, and
really Snoke is Palpatine, so really it's the same guy. It's the same guy just playing. And I think,
yeah, but the thing is that if you look at Anakin and you look at Kylo, okay, you can tell that Kylo's just a little bit more unhinged just naturally. That's what I'm saying. I mean, if you just look at just his personality. Now, again, what's kind of cool about the Rise of Skywalker, and it really made me like, man, I wish they didn't kill him off. He kind of makes a cool good guy. Like, I really like Kylo as a good guy. I was one of the ones that was totally dead set against him being redeemed and all this. But then when he turned good, I'm like, man, he makes a really cool good guy. Mm-hmm. And so when you do factor that in, I could see where you would go, okay, these guys are probably equally messed up. But my whole thing is that in Anakin's case, they were externally manipulating him, trying to turn him against his internal things. Because Anakin would always go, no, you know what? That's not right. Like, even when he was going to kill Dooku. And, Palpatine said, do it. And he's like, no, that's not the way. They would always have to try to manipulate him against what he was feeling inside. Whereas with Kylo, it was almost like they had to amplify what Kylo was feeling inside to get them to do what he wanted. And that's the difference.
I could see that. I would agree with that. I think.
So that's why I just say that it's kind of that's why I really wouldn't say when we say which one's the most misguided. Kind of equal.
I think they're misguided in the fact.
But if you're taking it misguided, guided kind of is almost external. So I could go with Anakin on that. Like if somebody said Anakin was the most misguided out of the two, I could see that.
Yeah, because I think like if you, I think the difference between the two, is that like one you had like, so you look at Anakin. Anakin has at that time the full range of the Jedi. Mm-hmm. He's got Yoda, he's got Mace, he's got Plo Koon, he's got...
That's true, he's got the whole council, he's got
the whole structure, the system. He has the library that he can go see.
Costa News.
Yeah, he's got everybody. I mean, and it's like, he's got other Padawans that he can kind of feed off of. Whereas when you look at Kylo, if you really look at his thing, he has... Everybody is pretty much family. It's his mom who has the Force, but she's off doing political stuff. Dad, he's not into it. And then his uncle's his sole teacher. And it's just like, okay, so it's like this one way that he's being taught as opposed to, okay, when you hear
it's like being homeschooled versus going to public school.
Exactly. And it's like, that's a perfect example because like when you hear Anakin talk, he was like, he could be as wise as Master Yoda or as so-and-so as Master Windu. Like he has all these
right. Kylo is as wise as Master Luke, or as good as Master Luke, or whatever's Master Luke.
Yeah, everything is Luke. Yeah. And so then now it's just like, okay, well, and he feels like, all right, well, I want to be careful with you because I don't want you to turn into Vader. So I gotta, so there's that constant thing with him, and I think it's just.
But if you look at just their personalities, though, Kylo's a little bit more. I mean, they're both kind of hot-headed, but Kylo's definitely more
aggressive,
unhinged.
Yeah, I think.
And maybe part of that was the dark side. That's what it amazed me, is how cool he was as a light side guy. It honestly made me want them to go back and tell more stories about before he turned. That's the effect that had on me, and I did not expect that.
I really would love to know how old Kylo was when he started his training.
Yeah.
Because my thing is like, all right, if you know generally like, okay, you start training him like 2-3 years old or something like that, as opposed to like you're waiting to him turning like 8. Like when we see Anakin, you know, when they find him, he's like 8 years old at this time.
Yeah, and he's all like, nah, he's kind of old. I don't know.
Yeah,
like,
he's
really.
I mean, this guy's piloting crap. He's, you know, I mean, he's fixing
well, it's
stuff.
because they want to get him, you know, before they're probably 3 or something, so they could actually shape and mold and raise them.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas, you know, at about 8 years old, well, now you got to deal with any of the baggage they already have, and now you're trying to put all this other stuff on them.
Yeah, and then they've already formed attachments and all this other stuff.
Yeah, it's like it's just harder to
it's no different than raising regular kids.
Exactly.
You don't start teaching them at 8. You teach them at 2 and 3 years old. So, I think if we talk about misguided, I think
we have to stick to the actual
misguided. Yeah, and I think
you came up with.
I know.
So don't you start going.
Hey.
It's okay if I do it. I'm just seeing this for the first time.
If I'm going to go misguided, I'm going to say.
They're waiting. Just saying.
Hey. Patience. I think I'm going to go with Vader.
Yes. He goes to the side, the right. So you're correct then.
I think I'm going to go with Vader. I think Vader is the more misguided one.
I would say he's the more misguided simply because it's also, you have to think about it, for a much longer duration.
Yeah, and I think he's had...
You know, he's been worked on by Palpatine since he was like probably 10.
Yep.
You know, and then he's had other people along the way that have been... See, I think that he would have been better off had Qui-Gon lived.
Yeah.
If Qui-Gon had lived and been the one to train him, I think that Anakin probably wouldn't have been
I think
Anakin-ish.
I honestly, but see, and I agree with you. I think he was put with the wrong masters. The person who I really felt should have trained him, because we knew Qui-Gon died. Honestly, the person who should have trained him would have been Mace Windu. That should have been his master.
Yeah.
Because Mace would have understood. I think Mace would have understood. He can keep that firm hand when need be, but he understands, okay, dabbling into the dark a little bit and letting Anakin use his power. I don't think Mace would have been that strict on Anakin.
On some things, I think he might have been stricter.
On some things, yes. On some things.
But I know what you mean. He would have understood where Anakin was coming from, I think. Even though, don't forget, Mace didn't want him to be trained at all, so that probably wasn't going to happen.
True. But if you had made it a
Quinlan Vos would have been a good master for him, too, I think.
Yeah.
If you read Dark Disciple, you can kind of see, okay, I could see where that would work.
Yep.
But what about you guys? First of all, who do you think was the most misguided? Do you think Kylo was the most misguided, or do you think it was Anakin? Secondly, it's like two-parters to all these now. It's like people have to write this down. Secondly, who do you think should have trained Anakin? Maybe you do think it was Obi-Wan. But if you don't, who do you think should have been the one to train Anakin? Leave both the answers in the comments below. All right, what do we got next?
All right, next we have From a Certain Point of View. Yep, this is our featured topic. This is what you came here for.
Yep, this is presumably why you clicked on this video.
So this week, we're actually getting some more information to the High Republic, and this is basically what I like to call the High Republic. The High Republic...
If we can say it, that would be great.
Yes, exactly. The High Republic Council. And the reason why I call it the council is because there's a consortium of authors and writers who pretty much kind of came up and with the outline of the stories and kind of the whole thrust of this particular series, which seems to be really, really cool. I mean, we're actually getting into a point of where, you know, the Jedi are in their prime. It's about 200 years before the events of the Phantom Menace.
I'd be remiss if I didn't make 2 points. Number one, wash your hands. Number two.
No, seriously, wash your hands.
Yeah, right. Number two is seriously wash it. No, but here's the thing. I said it the last time we brought this stuff up.
Mm-hmm.
Why didn't Disney do this with the sequel trilogy? Why don't they do this moving forward? It's what amazes me.
Much
is
like
the
Master
fact,
Yoda said, failure. You always have to tell them about your failure.
the problem is, and I don't understand this, they're doing this absolutely correct. Then we find out from this stupid little article that they even brought the story group in. They had they had all those guys in there with these authors all coming up with ideas. Then they whittled them down, came up with a story arc, then decided who was going to write each one. This is exactly how you have to handle this.
Yes.
If they had done this with the directors of the sequel trilogy, you would have had a much more cohesive experience and story arc instead of the whole choose your own adventure style that they did. So, I mean, I hate to keep beating a dead tauntaun. Got to keep it Star Wars theme, right? But I just feel like every single time, the more I read about this stuff, sometimes the more frustrated it gets. Now, I could look on the bright side and say, well, hey, at least they're doing it with this.
Yeah. At least they're learning from their mistakes. Like I said, Master Yoda, you just...
So, all right.
To learn from your
Wash your hands, High Republic. Okay, go ahead.
Yep. So this was formerly called Project Luminous. We broke that story.
Yeah, we broke that a few weeks ago.
And so like we said, this pretty much takes place 200 years before the events of the Phantom Menace. And so they pulled off a whole, pretty much like an Avengers team and how apropos since it's with Marvel. But so here are some of the authors that have been assembled together. Justina Ireland.
Who I was talking about last week, right? Remember I said Justin, I thought it was like Thoreau or something weird. But Justina Ireland, she's the one. Go ahead.
Charles, I think his last name is pronounced Soule, or it could be Soul. My apologies. Let's see. We also have Claudia Gray. Yeah, Claudia Gray, who we love.
We love Claudia Gray.
And then Daniel Jose Older. And then, of course, this is kind of all... now,
you know what's interesting about this? Is the writers that they put together. You don't get your James Lucinos, your Timothy Zahns, some of these other guys that you think you would have brought into this. So I'm really looking forward to seeing not just what these stories turn out to be, but also why did they choose this particular... I mean, Claudia Gray's a no-brainer, but why did they choose these other people?
Well, I think they, and like I said, there's some of the books that they've done. Soleil's Marvel's Darth Vader comics, Star Wars, and Poe Dameron.
Forgot about that.
Let's see.
Well, yeah, that's true because this is like a story, like a
group. Yeah.
Yeah. This whole story thing's going to go across the comics, books, maybe TV series.
Yeah. These are all publications.
It's like a whole cross-platform type of thing.
Yeah. And you got Claudia Gray, Master and Apprentice, of course, Bloodline, Justina Ireland, Lando's Luck, and Daniel Jose Older, Last Shot. So he's the one who did Last Shot.
That took a while.
Yeah, that took a while for you.
But that was a great book, though.
So, and then Michael Siglane is the one who kind of assembled everything together.
Yeah, it was kind of his story, right? Or at least the story that
his concept.
It was his concept.
Yeah, so then he kind of wanted to bring, I need other people. Oh, and also Kevin Scott. Right. He's also a part of this group as well. And so, they kind of, talked about how they got into it. My publisher called me with this, or, my agent called me with this, like, hey, they want you to be a part of this whole group. And so then they started to assemble themselves together, and then they really kind of start to flesh out, okay, here's the story, here's the backdrop. Now, how can we? And then, of course, they even selected, which I thought was awesome, like almost like a track team, like it's a relay race. Like, okay, who's popping off first? Who's taking the baton next? Who's going to be the anchor leg to this? So I think as far as the books are concerned, so I think that's just a really, really good approach. And like you said, yes, we wish this would have happened with the sequel trilogy, especially since they had plenty of time to do it.
Oh, yeah.
But I think that they've learned.
Yeah, they learned and I think they're on the right foot. And I'm just hoping that this is what they do with the next round of movies. Now, as I pointed out last week, you do have synopsis for each book because they are available for pre-order. I know the first one I think is coming out in August, and then the second one's like September or something like that, October. There's 4 books. I don't know what's happening with the comics, but there's 4 books that are coming out. And it's actually pretty interesting because there's enough time between now and then that they could start putting out other either story concepts or maybe even actually releasing some of the comics. Who knows? Maybe the novels are coming out later because they plan to release the comics first. That I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, like they've pretty much kind of come into their own as far as their own individual selves. And I think that's was first of all, was what got them all into this group in the first place is that they all were very successful in their own respective books alone. And then now, you know, it makes sense. Like, okay, we can take almost like the best of the best and kind of put them together and like flush this thing out.
Yeah, I honestly can't wait to read this stuff because first of all, it's going to be unfamiliar enough to be fresh, to be like reading an entirely new
characters,
just a whole new experience.
New characters, new worlds, and then of course, like even you can see here, like this is some of the concept art we have here. You know, like okay, you can see somebody who kind of has almost like a Kylo Ren style without the exhaust.
Remember I was saying the whole
light side version,
like a light side version. Oh, there you go.
There you go. You know, so even some new lightsaber colors. Now you heard even back then they might have even some people might have been able to use red back then. So it's a lot of different things that we're gonna kind of get.
Well, I do remember them saying it's going to be new type of Jedi. Like it's going to be a Jedi that we've never seen before.
Yeah,
they're going to have some new powers, I think.
Yeah, because they're going to be at the height of their thing. So it's like the holocrons that everybody's been chasing that we've seen, like in all these other mediums, like Rebels and Rise of Skywalker, things like that. Well, now this is all based upon these guys. So like all the stuff, the information that they've acquired, we're actually going to see this firsthand. So it's really going to be interesting to see like how these powers kind of come to. I mean, we can see, you know, some more force projection, or we can see force healing and things like that. And there's so many other vast powers that the Jedi have.
I am looking forward to it. I think that it's going to be cool, and I think it actually is going to be handled well. Yeah,
and I think that's the thing. I think you have a great team, and they even brought in Pablo Hidalgo.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, you get this whole thing to where you're bringing in the story group. The story group is there to clarify, hey, we're thinking of doing this. Because there was one, I remember reading in the interview, where they actually were trying to do something with some character, but they had to make sure that there wasn't a previous plan or something. And it was like, well, you know, don't do this because we're going to do that. And, you know, you have to have the story group there
to kind of checks and balance on this.
For checks and balance, but then also for reference. So you can, hey, we're thinking of having this planet when we wanted to do this. Can you do this?
Yeah, like you can't have that planet. It was blown up.
Right. Or, oops. You know, what's the population of this city on this planet? You know, I mean, it's little things like that the story group is there also besides for guidance, but also for reference.
Yeah. And for you guys that, you know, who want to check this out, you can find this whole interview on StarWars.com.
Well, we're going to we'll put a link to it in the description.
Yep.
So you can check it out. We're going to try to link a lot of the things that we talk about in the description, but that's definitely going to be in there.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think overall, you know, they have obviously a plan.
Yeah.
Do you think, and I guess depending on, do you think it's going to be the book sales that are going to determine what turns into movies? Do you think they're going to do this as well as an Old Republic thing, or is it going to be...
Well, that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking what they might do is the Old Republic, it's difficult to determine whether or not they're going to do that as a Disney Plus series, which I think might be a better idea, or maybe a trilogy. But the other thing, too, is that I think the High Republic is going to start out in this cross-platform publishing thing with the books and comics. And I think you might actually see a movie based on it after they've well established.
Now here's something.
Although there have been rumors that the next movie is going to be High Republic, and that's why they're doing this now, in order to seed it out.
Yeah, now here's something that I've thought about. So we've heard that Kevin Feige was planning on doing a trilogy. Mm-hmm. And then what if this is the Rian Johnson one?
Well, it's possible.
because remember he was talking about he wanted to do something brand new, fresh.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible.
And this would be the perfect material for him to kind of...
Although, the problem with that, though, is the fact that one of the things that everybody was willing to give Rian Johnson the benefit of the doubt is because, okay, you'd have this whole new blank slate to work in. As soon as they start putting this High Republic stuff out, now it's almost going to be the same problem. Now, granted, he's not determining the fate of Luke, Leia, and Han. Well, Luke and Leia. Han was dead by then, but...
Yeah.
But still, it's not like he's messing with the holy grail of Star Wars characters. So he still has a lot of latitude, even if, they do this whole books and comics thing.
Well, this is what actually helped him because, see, unlike the sequel, there weren't any books. It was just, all right, choose your own adventure, as you often said, when it comes to, because a lot of times they were writing their own stories as they were writing them.
Well, but you could have the same thing because you can look at the books and the comics here almost like the prequels and the original trilogy. It's like you still have what came before it.
Well, what I'm saying is if this material comes out, like, so you got the whole High Republic books, at least, okay, I know who my characters are. I know where they can go. I know these are their like, you don't have to create as much.
I'm wondering if that's Rian Johnson's weakness, though, because if you look at something like Knives Out, he created those characters. If you look at like Looper, he created those. Right now, he would be in the trap again where he's taken established characters.
I see what you're saying. That's
people, true. I mean, granted, it's not as known, right? Because not everybody in the world's going to read these books. But if you get the hardcore fans that don't like where Rian Johnson went with the characters, it's The Last Jedi all over again. And I don't know if Disney would want to deal with that.
That's a valid point.
But who knows? I mean, because the whole next film thing is up in the air. 1 minute a movie's on, the next minute it's off.
Yeah, well, we know we still got Kenobi. We still got Cassian Andor coming up. We still have season 2 of The Mandalorian.
Yeah, at least we know. But again, this is all TV stuff.
Yeah, so
we really don't know what's happening. We hear a lot of stuff about the movies, but we don't really know. There's not in 2022, this movie by this director is going to be released.
True.
And who knows? Maybe you're right. Maybe they're actually waiting to see what this High Republic stuff does and go, yep, remember that movie? Okay, that's greenlit. Let's go.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Well,
I don't know. You guys know? Has anybody out there heard anything? Does anybody even work? Like, have you ever done catering on Lucasfilm set or something?
Don't ask that. Super Shadow might write in.
Oh, yeah. But whatever you guys are thinking, do you like the High Republic? Are you excited for these books? Do you think that they chose the best writers for this? Let us know in the comments below. All right, you know what it's time for?
Yes, it is.
It is time for my favorite segment. I love answering you guys' questions. It is called Clear Your Mind. That's right. This is where you guys send in your questions and we answer them. All right, who's our first person? Who's the first victim of the Sarlacc?
Which we still need answers on.
Still need answers on.
Margaret Renner, she asked the question, what do you think Leia's role would have been if the actress didn't pass?
Well, to a degree, we actually have what her role... Now, we don't know what her role would have been in the Rise of Skywalker, but the Colin Trevorrow version, Duel of the Fates, I mean, we pretty much know. Although, has that ever been confirmed or denied? Remember when that whole script leaked and we did the whole thing on it? Did they ever say?
I think Colin Trevorrow did confirm it. I believe the
whole script. Because I remember the concept art was confirmed by him, but I don't remember if that whole big script leak.
I think it was.
Well, I don't think it was denied. And so if it wasn't denied, you would think that if everybody's running around going, yep, this is a full script to Duel of the Fates by Colin Trevorrow, you would have been like,
Yeah, you're not about to put my name on that, especially
exactly.
if it's not true. But since everybody loved it, he's like, yeah, I did
it. Well, either way, if you look at that, and we have no reason to believe that this isn't, at least if it isn't the exact script, the storyline is pretty much the same. We know that Leia's role would have been really big in this movie. We know she was the one that was actually going to be the one that was going to help, try to turn Kylo back. And although I don't think he was redeemed in Colin's version.
No, I don't believe so.
But I know she was trying to do it. She played a really big role. So, and then of course she was the one that was training Rey. as a Jedi, and we would have seen her use a lightsaber.
Would have been really cool just to see Leia in that type of role.
Oh, I know. I mean,
because like first of all, you don't even know how much Leia even knew. So the fact that that's like an open playground for her,
it just breaks my heart. I mean, it's tragic that she passed away.
Yeah,
but it's even more tragic because it's like, man,
yeah, as a fan, like we'll never know.
We'll never know, and it could have been so cool. You know, I mean, it would have really been cool to see Leia in that training. It was kind of cool to see Luke in that role, actually. Like how because we're so used to him being the apprentice, basically. Mm-hmm. Or at least being an advanced student, you know, but he always had these people that were way above him. Well, by the time of The Last Jedi, he was the Yoda.
Yep.
Which was also, this is the one thing that I think that Rian Johnson did really well, is that, you know, when he was despondent, Yoda comes back.
Yeah,
it's like,
it puts him back in check.
Kind of puts him back in check, and, you know, you get that dynamic again, and it just brings warm feelings to my heart. But yeah, Leia's role would have been really big in
Rise of
that's
Duel
the
of
thing.
Fates.
In Duel of Fates. I don't know. It's interesting to see.
But she was scheduled. I mean, JJ did say she had a big role.
Well, that's true. Yeah, he was going to continue, and he probably would have done something really similar. Because if you think about it, even the footage that they ended up using, she was training Rey.
Yeah, it's just, you know, we wouldn't have known how much or to what degree, and just you know, how everything would have panned out completely had she, you know, still lived.
Yeah, but it would have been a really big role.
Yep.
All right, what do we got next?
All right, the next question is from Larry Taylor, and he asks, does the Falcon officially belong to Rey or Lando?
Oh, wow.
That's a good question.
That really is a good question.
Because, I remember, like, you know...
Lando kind of took it back.
Yeah, because, like, you know, he was flying it at the end of the Rise.
I mean, he was flying it at the end, and I think he kept saying something about my ship or something. So
yeah, but at the same time, like, Chewie kind of like Rey doing it, you know?
It's...
I mean...
You know what? It really wasn't clear at the end of the movie.
No. But wait, when she went to Tatooine to bury the lightsabers, did she take the Falcon?
Yeah, I think so.
Because if she took the Falcon, then that pretty much probably...
I think it was the Falcon.
Yeah, because I think they showed them flying to Tatooine, and she buried the lightsabers in the sand. So if that be the case, then I would surmise that it's Rey's now. Especially because you think it would naturally just pass over to Chewie anyway, because...
Well, that's it. I mean, I think, honestly, if you're really going to be realistic, I'd say neither. I'd say it's Chewie's.
Well, yeah.
You know, I mean, surely Chewie and Han had, like, common law rights by that point,
common law rights.
I mean, it's, you know, it's one of those things where, I mean, he was kind of almost like a business partner, right? So the business that they had, although slightly illegal, would have been everything would have just reverted to him. So I would honestly think it was neither. I'd say it's Chewbacca's. We'll have to see. I don't know what to unfold. Hey, who knows? Maybe with all these deleted scenes and
books,
you know, the novel, because you know how the novel's just like
expand everything.
Yeah, expanding everything. It's out now. It came out last week on St. Patrick's Day, I believe. So the novel's out. At some point, I'm sure we'll read it and we'll talk ad nauseum about it. But a lot of people are talking about all the excerpts, particularly that Palpatine's a clone, and there's a few other things that are really bugging people about it. So I can't wait to read this novel just to see everything that's in it and to be able to discuss it and
dissect
talk about dissect it and, you know, basically do what we usually do. But hopefully you guys keep sending us in those great questions. Remember to leave a comment in the comments section. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button so you're notified every time that we put out another one of these episodes. Remember, there's more Star Wars content coming from us, so be sure and check back often. It's going to do it for our show this week. I'm Eric Vansel.
And I'm Daryl Sanders.
May the Force be with you.
Always.
Head to Head, a Star Wars podcast. Be sure to follow us on Twitter @HeadToHeadSW. Submit your questions for our next show. Visit our official website at headtoheadswpodcast.com. Until next time, may the Force be with you, always.